Welcome to Silicon Valley Asian Business Talk.
Is Roger Chen from University of San Francisco Center for Business Studies and Innovation, Asia Pacific. And Sunny, we are very, very pleased to have you today to talk to us. So would you please briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Professor Chen, for inviting me. My name is Sunny Bedi. I work at Snowflake. I'm the CIO and CDO at Snowflake, Chief Information Officer and Chief Data Officer. Been with the company for 3 years. And prior to this, I worked at NVIDIA Corporation for 12 years. And I'm a proud USF alumni, both from my days as an undergrad as well as a grad school student.
Discussion topic: how data/digital capability can help companies to grow.
Basically, my first question is based upon your great past experience. You have worked for several high growth transforming companies. So based upon your experience, could you maybe share with us some examples and also your insights on, in those high growth companies, how do these companies' IT digital capabilities transform and change to support the business growth of these companies?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I think I would start by, kind of highlighting the first principles around the IT organization, the data organization have to really get close to the customers and the product that we serve the customers. So the IT organization has to get really, really intimate with, what the customers are trying to do, what the problems that the customers are trying to solve, and how does our product help transform that transformation, that journey that the customers are taking. So for example, at Snowflake, I play the role of customer zero, meaning all new technologies that we are trying to roll out with our product and our engineering team. My team has the opportunity to partner with our engineering team, our product management team, and operationalize those technologies, those features internally, and really give them really good feedback about what's working, what needs to be improved, with an intention that when we go to customers with those same products, we are really delighting them with that experience. So customer zero is really, really important aspect for a good IT organization to be really powerful in helping companies grow and scale. And so that's kind of the first thing. The second thing I would highlight is that, whatever we help automate in IT, we want to make sure that it's a very scalable infrastructure that we're building. We don't want to develop pocket solutions. We want to basically develop more of a product platform type of an infrastructure that allows you to scale. It allows you to scale in a very graceful manner so that you're not just throwing bodies at it. You're not throwing pocket solutions at it. You're kind of like really thinking through the infrastructure that will allow the companies to scale. I mean, as an example, Snowflake in the last 3 years has hired, over 4,500 people.
Wow.
When I joined the company, we had 13 or 1,400 employees. We have over 6,000 employees right now. And imagine we hired all these people in all over the world in COVID times. So how they get all the technology that's needed, all the tools that they're needed, all the applications that they're needed is really critical to making sure that they are really productive right from, the first day they are employed till the first month, first quarter, 6 months, and you're doing everything remotely. So all the infrastructure and selection of applications and tools have to be very thoughtful, that you're not just throwing, pocket solutions at it. You're really thinking about solutions that will scale with the way you want to scale. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, actually, just to maybe quickly, I do not mean to interrupt you. I think, the first point, are you talking about being the, the early customers of your own technologies before you roll out to
That's
a customer.
correct.
Is that what you mean? Is customer zero? Oh, I see. Okay.
That's
So the
correct.
second point, obviously, it's great about the scalability. Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah. So any other kind of insights to?
The only other thing that I would add is that I think as companies that are high growth companies, high scaling companies operate in this environment, they really have to be very data driven. They have to be very information driven. And one of the big opportunities that we have for the IT organization, for the digital organizations, is to making sure that data is very inclusive to every single person in the company, every single employee in the company. We're a data cloud platform company. So the standard is even higher for us internally to making sure that we give data to every single department, whether it's finance, marketing, sales, HR, whatever it might be, and making sure that they're really looking at the data from measuring the right stuff to driving the right outcomes. We truly believe that if you measure the right stuff, you can drive the right outcomes for the organization. So in summary, I would highlight those three things. I would say customers and product knowledge is really critical. And that's why being a customer zero for the role that I play is super important, because I'm intimate with the customers, I'm intimate with the product. Second is really developing scalable infrastructure, and then really giving the promise of data and inclusiveness of that data to every organization so that they can drive the right outcomes for the company.
Discussion topic: how IT helps companies to build digital capabilities.
What are the lessons and the challenges in this transformation or growth process to help the company? So I would imagine maybe you can help us to elaborate. How do you what are the lessons to really develop this kind of a data-driven culture in many, many key functions or departments within the company, and work with them to create this kind of a mindset, a culture, and a practice?
Yeah, I would say that for the IT organization, I mean, especially in a high growth company like ours, if I were to go rewind back to my days 3 years ago, we were hiring hundreds and hundreds of people every month. And all the folks that were coming in had a wealth of background, knowledge, experience that they wanted to bring inside Snowflake for what their function has to go do. So if you imagine, that brings a tremendous amount of demand that has to be serviced by the IT organization in automating all the business processes that are needed, whether it's in finance, whether it's in HR, whether it's in sales and marketing, et cetera. So I think developing a very transparent culture is really important. So the IT organization has to collect all the demand, develop a roadmap with all the stakeholders, and sequence some of these things, because not everything can be done, in a month or in a quarter. And so I would say that one of the lessons learned is that, you have to develop a culture of transparency and alignment in the organization, because see, IT sits in the middle of all functions, right? We talk to everybody, we partner with everybody. If we don't have that level of transparency on what we can do and what we cannot do, and develop the alignment and we don't develop a roadmap, it basically creates a complete fracture organization, because then everybody is like kind of doing their own thing, and it drives chaos, and you start to make bad choices. So I would say that having the level of transparency is really critical. Driving the alignment is super critical for the IT organization.
That's great, actually. Sony, you had used kind of several keywords. One is a transparency, the other one's alignment. So when you say transparency, do you mean, I think you probably said already, is what you can or cannot do? That's what you mean, transparency.
And also basically be very transparent on the stuff that we are going to do. Are we hitting the dates the business is asking for? And the stuff that we're not able to do, kind of really be transparent. Oh, we missed this date, and here's the reason behind it. Obviously, we want to achieve everything on time, all the commitments that we make to everybody in the company and externally. But sometimes things go wrong, right? You can't finish certain things. So we should have the courage and conviction to explain what went wrong and learn from it, and making sure that we're more predictable as we go along.
Oh, so yeah, now I see better. So in other words, actually to basically give the various functional departments more transparency so they can react or plan or work with you accordingly. So the second keyword you mentioned is
also the capacity, right? There's also an element of capacity and how many things can we do.
Right. That is true. So can you also maybe say a little bit more about the alignment? What do you mean alignment? Who do you align with? Who do you involve in this alignment process? Things like that.
Yeah. So look, as I mentioned earlier, IT organization is not just working for one department. I really believe we're working for all departments in the company. I don't really have one manager. I feel like I have the whole E-staff as my management team. And so the alignment goes along with, do you have a roadmap for all the automation initiatives and all the things that, different departments are trying to do? Do we have a clear understanding of that with all the stakeholders? And then really having the right level of cadence to measure and monitor, are we hitting that roadmap or not? So we take a lot of effort, we take a lot of energy in trying to develop roadmaps with, all the critical stakeholders in different various functions, ensure that there's interdependencies are well understood, so that we don't have like finance going this way and sales is going this way. So, we do that together, we program manage that together. And really, the roadmap is kind of like really important because it starts to kind of show the sequencing of how these things all come together.
Do you also, in this kind of a whole process, sounds like it requires a lot of coordination and also communicating and, closing some kind of a misalignment? Do you involve some leadership teams, even the top senior executives, in this alignment process, or do you need to?
Yes, 100%. So, we have forums in place that we get all the right level of leadership involved in developing the initiatives, prioritizing those initiatives, developing the roadmaps. And if there is conflicts or interdependencies that need like better coordination, then we obviously bring everybody together. But the company looks for the IT organization to own that roadmap, so it's not like it's all over the place. It's centralized in one team.
So in other words, you own the whole execution piece in a sense.
That's right.
That's great.
Discussion topic: future IT function and data monetization opportunities.
So now let's briefly talk about the, let's say, futures, so general thinking. What's your vision about, how the IT or digital capabilities will transform companies and business and help companies to grow and build future competitive advantage? What's your vision on that?
Yeah, I would basically highlight like two things in this area. One is, I think, there's going to be a lot more opportunity for companies to really find new ways of monetization. Okay? And what I mean by that is like, if you think about the music industry, 20, 30 years ago, the artist would actually, make an amazing album, and then they would, get compensated for it based on concerts and how many albums they sold. But then when the music industry transformed itself, Spotify came in and iTunes came in, and now you can see that even now, artists like that developed records 20, 30 years ago are still getting royalties. Right, for the music that was developed 20, 30 years ago. And that's hundreds of millions of dollars that they never got to do that 20, 30 years ago because there was no way to monetize that. And so Spotify and iTunes did an amazing job of really transforming the music industry. Well, we believe that Snowflake is in that same journey, same promise on how data is going to get transformed and monetized for corporations, researchers, individuals, whoever it might be, that you would have the same thing, same promise, where you're going to develop, let's say an ML model, or you will develop some kind of research that basically transforms and enriches some data set. And now that data set needs to be shared with research institutes or corporations all over the world. Now you can take that data set, put on top of Snowflake, and now you can share that with hundreds and hundreds of recipients of that data set. And you're going to get really compensated for it in the right manner. So we believe that the data transformation is already kicking in exactly the same way that music industry started 20 years ago. And it's a much, much bigger industry from a sense on how it actually transforms all types of workloads. So I would say that in summary, the data monetization is going to be a big piece that will also lead a lot of transformation. And then second, I would say that more and more machine learning AI is going to kick in. I'm sure you're reading the news every day. There's like
Chat GPT kind of stuff.
Chat GPT and other things. But even I'm just speaking from an IT function perspective. We buy a lot of applications that are out there, like SaaS applications that power up workflow automation, whether it's in sales workflow or finance workflow or HR workflow. But the next wave is going to be how IT organizations and data organizations in corporations are going to take data from all these different places, break the silos, and actually do a lot of machine learning and AI to be much more predictable than looking at backwards, right? It's more about how do I do predictable analytics using a lot of the data. So a lot of machine learning, AI, data science is going to be at the heart of what the next set of transformation is going to be for IT.
Discussion topic: how to organize IT/data unit, mistakes and guidelines.
So what are the common mistakes you have seen companies kind of making in this data transformation or digital capability transformation that you want company to be aware?
I think the mistakes I think that companies tend to make is that the architecture of how you actually organize yourselves on process, systems, people, and data, and the infrastructure has to be very well thought through. Sometimes I make mistakes of, for example, organizing. Everything has to be centralized in one area, but that kind of doesn't really make sense in a lot of times because it actually slows down things. And you're trying to say, okay, well, I want to have full autonomy of everything that one team should be doing. But we don't believe that's the right way of doing it. I think there needs to be inclusiveness of how all of these things come together. And a good thought process needs to go in place of making sure that, all dimensions of how these things go to market have to be thought through properly. So for example, I'll just use my example at Snowflake and how we have organized our data team. We are very careful that we have centralized a lot of the functions that make sense on the data engineering and so on, that all reports into me. But we feel like data science, on the other hand, which is really now you have taken all the data you have put inside Snowflake, but now it needs to require enrichment and doing machine learning on that and applying level of subject matter expertise should not be in a centralized team. It should be in the line of business.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So for example, like, we're a consumption-based company. We recognize revenue based on consumption. It's like exactly like how we recognize how you get billed for PG&E. You don't get a flat rate from PG&E. You get billed by PG and based on how you use your energy. And that's the same way how Snowflake, bills and invoices customers on consumption. So if you can imagine, predicting revenue for Snowflake is complex in a 13-week quarter. On what would like all the thousands of customers are going to consume in end of the quarter. Now we believe that subject matter expertise on revenue recognition and revenue forecasting should be in the finance data science team, not in the IT organization. My promise to the CFO and to the finance organization is to make sure I'm going to get all the data. It's going to be accurate. It's going to be clean. But then how they're going to model that data and applying data science and forecasting, that should remain inside the business. And so a couple of mistakes that I see in the data organizations or IT organizations is that they try to centralize everything in one place or decentralize. And so it's kind of like then they're not really getting the value of all the stuff that, the data is going to allow them to transform their business.
That's great. So in other words, it's kind of a centralized and a decentralized depends upon the specific scenarios of the use case rather than just a simple extreme either or situation.
Exactly.
Discussion topic, key for IT, information/knowledge, not technology.
Do you see any kind of a common misperceptions or misunderstanding of so-called digital capabilities or IT capabilities beside the mistakes you already mentioned?
No, I think I think I'll probably skip that question. I think no. I mean, I think everybody is moving towards the cloud. Everybody is. I think everybody is trying to make things a lot more secure. Everybody is trying to take advantage of the data. I think that's kind of like the trend. I don't have anything more to add to that one.
But that's great. Actually, as you were talking about the mistakes, that I was already thinking, well, that's not, the reason people make mistake because that's the wrong way they understand IT or digital capability, right? That's kind of a misunderstanding. Thank you. Actually, that's great. So far,
and I think the only other thing I would say, Professor Chen, is that I think the IT organizations that tend to be successful lead from the front. They are awesome problem solvers, and they are not just the T of the I. I expect them to be the I of the T. It's the information of the IT rather than the T of the. You know what I'm saying? Like anybody can do technology now because a lot of the stuff is kind of built with so much ease and automation. It's the IT organizations that are successful that don't make mistakes. I'm flipping the question a little bit. That don't make mistakes are the ones who really take advantage of the I, who bring information to the table. Because once you bring information to the table, you have defined a problem statement. Then people know how to solve problems. But if you don't have the information and the data on what the problem is, then you're wasting your time solving that problem through technology when you really don't even know what the problem truly is. So
that's so great because I like your analogy. Emphasize on the I part, less on the T part, because I part probably is the knowledge, is the insights, is to ask the right question.
Yeah. And really, I mean, you're in academia. I don't need to tell you that unless you know what the problem you're trying to solve, and unless you have the data that backs it up, you could have a million ways to cut that, solve that problem, but you may still not solve the root cause of the problem unless you really know what the underlying data is and what the information is telling you to go fix, right?
Yeah, that's true. That also goes back to your early point about the data-driven, right? That's kind of a fact-driven. That's great.
Discussion topic, leadership values, practices/skills that helped me?
Clearly, you are very successful in leading different teams and playing different leadership roles. So whether or not your Asian heritage affected the way you approach these leadership roles or leading these teams or not, what's your kind of reflection on that?
Yeah, look, I mean, I was born and raised in India. I came to this country when I was 17 years old, directly to USF. And so I kind of feel like even though I was born and raised in India, but I also grew up here. I have a lot of values that are not just from my heritage from India, but I've also learned and adopted and applied a lot of the learnings that this country has, taught me, right? And end of the day, from my own cultural growing up, one of the big principles that Sikhism, so I'm a Sikh in India, one of the big principles is about equality.
Equality.
And so I apply that in every aspect of how I operate. And from a management perspective, I'm in a management position. I'm very fortunate to be in a leadership position. One of the things that I learned growing up that I think is the most important, valuable lesson that applies in corporate America, I feel, is that if you treat other people the way you want to be treated, everything falls in place. So my first principles is, and I think that's not just, because I grew up in India and I have that, growing up, but that's also applies over here. I mean, to me, it's almost like first principle common sense, in corporate America. It's like, treat people the way you want to be treated. Everything falls in place. So that would be the first thing. And I think the second thing that I really take a lot of, I really pay a lot of attention is around inclusiveness. I think inclusiveness is really important. I have like close to 400 people in my organization. I don't just kind of talk to my direct reports. I try to make sure I get to know every single person in the organization. I'm very engaged with the projects that they are working on, engaged with what contributions they're adding and how I can help them, how I can help their projects, how I can help them career. So inclusiveness is another big element that I feel is extremely critical, and having the mixed background of both coming from India and from here, I think I'm a lot more sensitive to that at work and also in general in personal life too. And I think it plays a big role in helping build, very, very high performing teams. I think if you have those two values, the equality and inclusiveness, it develops a high degree of trust. It develops a high degree of teamwork, and you see the results just fly from there.
That is great. So, actually, you're right. I think they make a lot of sense when you talk about these two very almost like a universal principles, right? Helping. Do you have any things to share about or reflection as well about your success career, professional development that helped or enabled you to kind of develop your careers beside these two principles, which is somewhat relating to your Asian culture heritage? Any other enablers?
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of like talk about a little bit like the type of things that I look for in my team, the type of things that I want to do well, right? I mean, you're talking about characteristics, skills, right? So
right.
I would say the first one is really around clarity. I think, as a leader of the organization, I need to really be extremely clear on what we are trying to go drive. There's clarity for what I'm driving. There's clarity from what my team is driving. And we have clarity on making sure that's communicated to the whole 400 people in the organization. Because if it's not clear and they're not clear, then you're basically everybody's in dark, right?
Right,
So,
right.
so
Confusion as well.
confusion, yeah. So clarity is really important. I would say the other thing is that you really need to surround yourself with great people. Good people drive great teamwork. In corporate America, it's not an individual sport, right? It's a team sport.
Right.
And for team sport, you need to develop trust. You need to develop inclusiveness, like I mentioned earlier. That drives, strong team excellence. And so I really focus on that. Then craftsmanship really matters, right? Like for what you do. So I have various cross-functional teams in my organization. They do different things. You have infrastructure people that do infrastructure. You have applications people who do applications. I have data science people. I have data engineering people, and they have to really drive a high degree of craftsmanship in the vertical that they are executing their work. And so finding the right talent, making sure we're investing in them, making sure that they are really, really good at what they do and how they measure themselves is really important. I think a lot of the times IT organization misses that out a little bit. And so I pay a very, very close attention to craftsmanship on that, like making sure that our work is really best of the best in the industry. And then there are some other skills, like, I would not call them like more technical skills, but more like softer skills or non-technical skills that I really look for. One to be grit. How much grit do you have in how you operate? You give up very quickly, or are you really going after all the time? So grit is very hard to measure. It's either you have it or you don't have it to some extent. And then if you don't have it, how do you motivate to kind of develop that is hard. So high performing teams, high performing individuals have a lot of grit, as you've seen. So I look for that a lot. And I try to, and I would say the last thing that I would say is that, I'm super self-critical on myself. Okay. And so then I expect my team to be self-critical too. There's nothing wrong with, sometimes having mistakes or issues, but it's more important for us to learn from it and making sure that we don't repeat them. And so, I constantly, look at everything that I've done in the last month and being self-critical about, am I spending my time the right way? I look at my calendar, for example, every month. I look at where I'm spending maximum amount of time, and then making sure that, is that the right set of time that I'm spending in a combination of all the roles that I play inside the company. And so I think having that self-critical element is really important for leaders. And because you learn from it, right? You learn from.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And then I would say maybe the last item that I would say that is really important is also having a high degree of inspection skills. Meaning you go to meetings, you look at content, and you need to have the ability to inspect everything that you're working on and ensure that you have the best outcomes that you're going to drive from that work. And so it's a combination of self-critical, but like as a leader, like I go to meetings and I'm looking at people's work. And so, or they're showing me what they're working on, whether it's a new architecture that they're working on or a new system that they're implementing. So having the right level of inspection skills is really important, because it should, give insights to the new folks who have not yet that much experience, input, so that they can make that work even better than what they have designed, or give them feedback that is beautiful, so it goes both ways. So, so I would say clarity, grit, inspection skills, craftsmanship, are all equally important. And maybe one other highlight that I'm just kind of rambling a little bit, but one more item that I would like to add maybe is also having cross-functional influencing skills. Because we work in an environment that, you don't do things alone. You do things as a team. And a lot of the times what you do is highly dependent on somebody else, and vice versa. And so sometimes you deal with situations where you have to influence people to do, all the things that, are the right things in the company. And so having the ability to cross-functionally influence people is really critical too.
Discussion topic: how do I influence my peers to achieve common goals?
What do you do to kind of help you to influence or motivating your peers? If you don't have authority over these people, but you would like to cooperate, or their cooperation, what do you do actually to?
Well, I think. Look, there's a very famous saying, right? What's obvious to you is obvious to others.
Mm.
And the only way to make it obvious to others is, again, if you have the clarity and the data to support what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. People do come with some level of bias. People do come with level of bias from their past experiences or whatever things have worked for them in the past or not. And so when I'm trying to go pitch what I'm trying to do, and there's, let's say, some contention on some other areas who are not so keen on jumping on that so quickly, I go back to the first principles of making sure that, do I have the data that tells me what the problem is? Do I have the data that tells me what I want to go solve? Is there clarity is it obvious to me? Is it obvious to Professor Chen? If it's obvious to me and Professor Chen, then probably all the students in the class would also have that, clarity. But if I don't have the data and I'm shooting from my hip and I'm trying to convince you to do something, and you already have a bias from your previous life, and you are a data-driven person, which my company is, everybody is a data-driven person, then in that case, I'm not able to influence that decision, that change that I want to go make. So I think for the new leaders, especially that are graduating from college, they have to use data to build their thesis on what they want to go do. They have to have the ability to articulate that and make the thesis so clear with backing up with data that it basically takes and diffuses all the tension or confusion that might exist. Because if you do, then it's obvious to you and it'll be obvious to others.
Discussion topic: secrets for professional success.
Say, look, first, if you're starting a career, I think you have to kind of, not everybody is lucky to find the passion right away from the first job that they're going to take.
Right.
I mean, it's very rare, right? Like, I mean, if you find the first job that is going to be your last job, that's very, very rare. In modern corporate history, corporate America, that doesn't work like that. Right. So say that you have to find your passion, what you really, really enjoy doing, right? I mean, so don't be like scared of experimenting and jumping in, taking some risks that will navigate towards the passion that you're really trying to go do. So finding the right passion takes time, takes courage, takes risks. Don't be afraid, take them. I would say that would be one. Second is, when I look at the new professionals that are coming in, I'm looking for really good problem solvers. People, professionals who are very interested in solving problems, digging in, finding problems, throwing ideas on how these problems could be solved. And sometimes what happens is you get an assignment and you just end up focusing on that assignment. We covered problem solving, taking risks comes with that. Believe it or not, curiosity and imagination is super important, right? Like, you always need to have an curiosity of finding these problems, imagining some amazing outcomes. So I would say that, I'm, even for my level, I'm very curious about all the things that I don't know and all the things I'm imagining. And so, I'm continuously pushing myself for that. So I would say that if you're a new professional coming out of university, you really need to be more curious and more imaginative than, others, right?
Yeah.
I would say hard work, you really do have to be hardworking. That is something that just pays off no matter what you do. Hardworking is important. And even at my level, like, I work hard. I, don't, those are first principles that you can't ignore, right? You can't be lazy about things and you have to work hard. Like, I don't need to tell you, Professor Chen, but like, you have to do your homework. You have to, get good grades, right? So you have to do your assignments. Don't take shortcuts on that, right? I would say that, the real big one that I feel is important is, whatever you do, whatever line of profession you pick, really developed a craftsmanship mentality. And what I mean by that is, like, you really have to kind of make sure you have the grit internally to say, I want to be the best at that.
The inner drive to be excellent.
To be, like let's look at, we're all in the Bay Area. Let's look at Steph Curry, right? Basketball player. He's amazing, right? Like, he's obviously naturally gifted. God's given him an amazing skill, but his dedication, passion, and the inner drive to be the best player that has ever played basketball, only he has that grit, right? He has got that craftsmanship mentality that I am going to win every time, and I'm going to shoot that three-pointer every single time. So I think having that drive internally, that whatever profession I pick, whatever craft work that I'm going to master at, I want to be known to be the best ever in that. I think is really important. And school, university can give you all the right technical skills, educational discipline, lot of amazing skills that you pick up in school. But that one you have to develop yourself.
Right.
You have to develop that yourself. And that comes with time, that comes with finding the right passion for it. And, but I would say that would be my big one too.
Discussion topic: lessons and challenges, growth of companies.
Based upon your direct experience, observation of these high growth companies, what's your reflection and also insights on the scaling up, the growth of the new venture companies? In other words, after they find their first product, successful products, first successful target customer segments, then they entering so-called the growth stage. What are the lessons, insights to help companies to grow, and what are the challenges you have observed?
Well, again, it goes back to, how intimate are you with the customer, right? Starts with the customer. Look at my background, put customers first, right?
Right.
I think the key over here is, like, how are you taking your technology, and obviously initially you're solving that one problem for the customer so that they are latched to you and you're then sticky with them. But then it's like, what are the next set of verticals you can go and solve them, help them solve them? Because look, people don't want to buy like 8 different solutions to solve a problem. They're looking for more of a platform-based companies. They're looking for more of a platform-based solution that will help them solve, the type of things that they're trying to go innovate and solve. So I would say that finding the next set of verticals of what customers are looking for, finding the next set of verticals that the customers are ready to invest in with you is critical. Just being single dimensional will help you scale and grow initially, but if you're not multi-dimensional and you're not a horizontal platform company, pretty quickly you're going to be in trouble. So we're continuously trying to innovate with that mindset to help customers be successful in all aspects of what they're trying to do. That, for us, we're very fortunate. We're a data cloud company. That data doesn't just solve in one vertical. It's horizontally solving many, many use cases, many, many areas that we're focused on. So, and at the same time, don't lose focus on what the company initially got founded on. That is the core of the business. Make sure you don't drop the ball on that either.
Discussion topic: platform companies, how to enter new market verticals.
So could you elaborate, when you grow from one vertical or one sector to another sector, how does that kind of play out in the context of the platform, kind of strategy or business model situation?
Yeah, I mean, for example, I'm just trying to give you a good example on this.
Right.
If you're in our case, right, we're ensuring that we provide the data governance, the data security.
Okay.
All those aspects are all core table stakes for any customers to kind of put their data in the cloud. Then when we start to go into other verticals and we start to go into more like industry solutions, those companies might still want that first principles of those things also applied in those areas. So that's kind of what I really mean by that, is that you can't, stop doing what also companies, because companies are not just using you for one dimensional things right now. They want you to use you for multi-dimensional items.
Right. That's great. Now, actually, you're talking about the clarity. These examples are very powerful in providing clarity. You're talking about the foundational features or functions that, regardless of which vertical, customers all need. Right. So my next question is, how do you typically, many companies, when they expand from one vertical or one industry to another vertical, another segment, they're typically facing the challenge of vertical knowledge or capabilities. So how does Snowflake, of course, you're a platform company, but do you face that kind of issues, and how do you deal with that issues?
Well, I mean, look, there are certain barriers in certain verticals that have to come or have to be overcome. For example, I'll give you the federal business, right? The federal business is very regulated in how software companies can operate there. They have to pass certain certifications. There are certifications called FedRAMP certification. There are certifications called IL4, IL5, those type of certifications. So you have to pass those type of controls to be even eligible to compete in that business. So obviously we're prioritizing that because we want to do business in all these verticals, but you can't do that all in one go. Right. So you do an ROI on that, and you figure out which investments we're going to make. Same thing on the pharmaceutical or healthcare. There are certain certifications you have to pass, and then you have to pick one or two really strong companies who are invested in partnering with you in getting to be the first or second customers of that vertical. And once you've kind of successfully passed the certification, you have solved the problem, what they're trying to go do, and launch them as a customer, then you can apply that and now, rinse and repeat that with many, many other customers. Because you're now eligible to win that workload. You're eligible to win that use case. and in that vertical, in that industry. So it becomes pretty powerful.
So actually, it seems to me you are suggesting the way you do it. First, you have to pass those requirements, could be certification, government regulations. Then your next step is to work with maybe one or two pioneering customers to co-develop solutions. That is a very powerful way for you to develop the expertise in those sectors. Then so once you're successful, then you launch your solutions.
And it also brings a lot of validation in the marketplace, right? It brings a lot of credibility in the marketplace. It brings a lot of conviction for the sales team to go sell that to, other, like, oh, XYZ company is using us in this sector. And now, so it brings a lot of validity to the marketplace.
Discussion topic: exciting future opportunities in IT space.
What's your vision? Are the future opportunities, the exciting innovations down the road? Because Silicon Valley, as an example, ChatGPT created lots of buzzwords about innovation, venture opportunity. So what's your vision about the exciting things that may happen, opportunities for new ventures, things like that?
Yeah, I would say, like, I'm speaking now mainly from an IT lens.
Yeah.
So I think from an IT lens, I would highlight three big things. One, I feel there will be more and more ML, AI-based workloads that IT will help automate. So I can see a plethora of applications that are going to be built on ML-based, AI-based, that would be, game changer applications. ChatGPT is one of those examples.
Sorry, actually, Sunny, when you say ML, I assume just for
machine learning.
Machine learning, right? Yeah. Okay.
So even in my organization, we're building some amazing applications that are ML based. I see that to be the trend in the IT organizations across every single vertical, every single industry is going to be the case. The IT organization has to innovate itself to do that kind of thing. Second, I would say that, a lot of companies that exist today, especially in the software space, are going to need to find new ways of monetizing, revenue for the company, new opportunities, new tracks. And data will be in the middle of that in every single aspect of it. So data monetization will become a very important way for organizations to evolve itself and find new ways of generating revenue and profit. And so IT organizations are going to have to play the role of helping companies innovate itself where data can be monetized for them. And then finally, third is like, a lot of companies today are not, like everything that I buy today is subscription based as an IT organization. So how many licenses do you need? And then I do a true up end of the year. And then plus minus, we have to give them, the software vendors, a charge. I think the third big shift that I see is that everybody is going to want to become more of consumption based. So charge me for what you're really using, but not subscription based, because a lot of the assets that I buy, I don't really use that all the time. And I don't want to pay for an idle asset that's sitting out there, right? So Snowflake is a consumption-based company. I think a lot of the new companies that are being born in the cloud are going to emulate to become like Snowflake, where they're going to want to be consumption-based. And companies that are already in the cloud that are subscription-based are going to be pushed by corporations that are using them to become more consumption-based. So it's going to be disruptive in changing their business model.
Yeah, I can see, these are fascinating points, especially for this last part, which is a revenue model change, because, I remember a few years ago, this kind of a subscription-based model is like a trend. Now you're switching to use-based. Yeah. So I can see some companies, it's hard for them to shift from subscription-based to consumption-based. That's going to hurt their bottom line, or maybe it's a major challenge.
Thank you for watching.